Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. What happens when your body suddenly changes the conversation about your health? In today's episode, we're talking about how women can move from fear after a heart setback to confidence, strength, and a powerful comeback story. I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. Today, we're exploring what happens when our bodies ask us to slow down, pay attention, and perhaps even change the conversation we're having with ourselves about health, strength, and resilience. My guest is Suzie Jeffreys, a women's heart health coach, kinesiologist, and founder of Living Fitness RX and creator of the Holistic Heart Health Intensive. With more than 30 years in the fitness field and over a decade working in an elite hospital-based cardiac rehab program, Suzie helps women rebuild strength, energy, and confidence after health setbacks using a heart smart, holistic approach that honors both science and real life. Suzie, I'm honored to have you and delighted to have you here with me today to explore how women can move from that fearful place into confidence and good habits. So thanks for being here with me.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and share some simple strategies and take away some of the fear that can come along, especially after a health scare.
Yeah. So especially after, but you and I were chatting a little before we started this, any woman can use this information, no matter,
And
even if she
mhm,
hasn't had a health scare, because it can be prevention too, as well, right?
correct. And a lot of times it is. A lot of times people have a family history. So whether that family history is really based in genetics or lifestyle, because a lot
Mhm.
of times it's lifestyle. You know, we carry on family traditions from generation to generation. And so, but whichever side of the coin it is, it's still possible to make changes. And
Mhm.
that's my biggest message always. Anything is possible when it
Yeah, I
comes
read
to.
something years ago that someone was talking, it was someone in the know who was talking about, you know, lifestyle and what was the word you used? Family history. There was
Yeah.
that a word of genealogy, even, lifestyle
The
and
genetics. Uh-huh.
your genetics.
Mhm.
And this person said that often we'll call it genetics, but it's really because we've just been eating what our family eats. And so
Mhm.
because they have heart disease, maybe we will too, because we've just kept those same patterns. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
Right.
But I do want to point out here that, this is for any woman. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what can go wrong, but then we're going to talk about how we get from that into something that is really sustainable. So let's just talk first about, from your experience working with women, what are some of the moments when the body does change the conversation? Like, what can cause that to happen?
So I would say first and foremost, hormones. You know,
Mm,
as we get older, so what worked in our 20s and 30s no longer works for us. And a lot of that is not our fault. It is
hmm
about the hormones shifting and changing. And when we don't have the protection of estrogen and progesterone anymore, it causes chaos in our system. And we need to honor that. We need to honor that these changes are happening, but we don't need to be fearful of them. We don't need to get discouraged by them. We just need to shift our focus.
And how do we start to shift our focus? That's a
Good
big question.
question.
I know. We're going to go into more details a little bit later
Yeah.
too. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I would say is, like as women, we're caregivers first and foremost a lot of the time. And whether that's caregivers for, immediate family, extended family, friends, wherever it may be. Um, and we put ourselves last. And then all of a sudden, the kids are grown, they're out of the house. Maybe we've retired or work is slowing down. And now we've got this focus on us. And we're like, oh man, I should have been paying attention all along. I wish I would have, right? I should have, and I wish I would have. Those are two really famous statements that come into my world a lot. And what I know is you can't change what's happened in the past, what you did or did not do. You can only move forward. And so, whether it's that 10 pounds that has just been hanging out and not budging, whether it's a true health scare, whether that looks like a heart attack or a new diagnosis of high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes, or maybe even arthritis, anything along those lines can be an interruption in our life and in what we perceive is going to be possible for the future going forward. We can get really hung up, I think, sometimes thinking, oh, I blew it. So why bother? Why bother
Yeah.
going forward? Why bother making the changes? So um, I think that we should always embrace that there's room for change. It doesn't have to be big and bold. In fact, it
Mhm.
shouldn't be because when you do big and bold and like I'll say, jumping in with both feet and above your head, you're going to burn out really quick.
Yeah.
You're going to get frustrated again. You're going to get disappointed again. And then that's where you get stuck again.
Susie, we've known each other for probably close to 2 years now, I'm thinking,
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
the On Purpose Woman Global community. And I've seen you in person a lot. And I love your approach because you were so gentle with it. You were just very gentle in how you brought up the subject of, oh, I wish I'd done something else. I wish I could have. And those are very shaming things that we do to ourselves.
Hmm.
In my experience, both with me and with other people, shame never motivates anybody to do anything, right? It just
Correct.
holds us back. And so your idea of just, be gentle with ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
just be conscious of the fact that we want to make a change. Isn't that great? Yay, us.
Right. Yeah, yes. Celebrate and celebrate every little milestone as well as the big milestones. The
Yeah.
little win, whether it's the jeans fitting better or that
Mhm.
you just have more energy. Both of those are wins.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the, the glow in your skin because you've maybe changed your diet a little bit, or maybe you're drinking more water. And so, yeah, those are all
Mhm.
really things to celebrate. And through those celebrations, like I really believe that our brain loves to celebrate. And so the more we celebrate those little wins, the more those wins will start to stack up because then we're more motivated to keep moving.
Endorphins kick in and we
Hmm.
start like looking forward to those things that we can
Hmm.
celebrate, I think is what you're saying, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what happens when a woman has a heart attack or has a diagnosis of any kind of thing that's
Hmm.
scary. There's a lot
Hmm.
of scary things that can happen. What are some of the emotions that usually come with that? What have you seen as far as emotions in those early moments of, oh, crap?
Yeah. Yeah. I think fear and disappointment and
Mm,
frustration. I would say those three kind of come hand in hand. The fear of that initial diagnosis or event, like a heart attack, right? Or
hmm
heart surgery and sometimes it's frustration in that you thought you were doing all the right things and then all of a sudden get hit with something, right? And sometimes it's just out of our control too. And we have to recognize that. It's not always that we spent 20 years eating the wrong things or not doing the right things. Sometimes it's just what happens. But so that fear can be really prominent. Frustration in on either side. Frustration that I didn't do what I should have been doing. I knew better. I knew better than
mm
to smoke, to eat the wrong things, to not exercise more, to let my job, you know, be at the forefront of everything. And I put my health behind everything else. Um, or frustration that you were doing all the right things and wham, you still ended up like when I worked in cardiac rehab, you still ended up in cardiac rehab.
Mm.
How did that happen? And I used to tell my patients, I go, be grateful that you ended up in cardiac rehab. Be grateful that you took care of
Yeah.
yourself because you did end up in cardiac rehab, you
Yeah,
know?
the
So,
alternative is not a great choice, right? Yeah.
right, right. And then the disappointment. People have disappointment too, disappointment that either this has happened to them or they let this happen to them. So frustration and disappointment kind of run parallel to each other.
Okay.
Oh.
And can that slow them down from starting to make progress again? Well, not if they're working with you, probably, because you're really good at probably talking them through this and
Yeah, but you
talking
know
them down,
what?
if you will.
Yeah, but you know what? People do that frustration and disappointment. It takes a minute to get through, and it takes and really not just one accountability or support person in your world. It takes a team because if your friends aren't on board with you, oh, come on, just have the pizza
Mm.
or just have the couple of drinks with me. Um, oh, you don't need to go exercise, right? That can
Yeah.
be so having a really good support team, and whether that is within your family or outside your family, it's important to find a team as well as if you need the additional support, and accountability, hiring a professional to help you along the way. I had, just real quick, I had a client this morning that I checked in with, and she had she had gotten in touch with me on Monday, and she said, "I just can't jump back in the game." She'd been
Mm.
away for a few days, and she was like, she had called me about, a meal plan that I had that she had used in the past, and she was like, "Send that to me again." And she was all gung ho on Monday, and she was just like, I haven't done anything. I haven't gotten on the treadmill. I haven't started eating right again. I don't know what's wrong.
Mm.
And I said, so maybe sit with that and let's try and figure it out. So I checked in with her this morning and I said, so did anything come up? And she said, I just don't know why. I feel like I'm writing my own death sentence because I know what I need to do. And she's somebody who's had cancer. She's somebody who has high blood pressure, so she's on medication. And I said, well, what if we change the narrative a little bit? I said, you take your high blood pressure medication every day, right? And she said, yeah, I would never miss it. I said, well, how about if we think of food as medicine, and I'm not going to say the word exercise because I know you have this block about exercise, but movement is medicine.
Mm.
So getting on that treadmill. So this is your prescription. And if you wouldn't miss that blood pressure pill, don't miss taking care of putting the right foods in your body and getting some movement in. And she was like, oh my God, I love that.
Uh-huh.
That that hit home with me. She said, that's how I'm gonna look at it. So it was just and like that's always the puzzle, figuring out what the right words are to
Yeah.
help somebody cross the bridge or at least get midway on the bridge and not back off. And if there is a moment where like she went away, right? And she came back and she felt like she was off track and she couldn't get back on track, she to give yourself grace and be like, it's okay. You know what? Tomorrow I start. And if it's only with 10 minutes, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's so brilliant, Susie. And you're such a compassionate listener and team member, really, for your clients. Because again, with that guilt stuff, guilt is going to make us want to go to bed and put the covers over our head, right? It's not going to make us want to go take a walk,
for
because we
sure.
already feel bad about ourselves. And so I love that because that's something she can then choose to do from the
Mm,
same motivational space that she takes her blood pressure medicine. Oh,
right.
it's my prescription. That's brilliant. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So you describe your approach with your clients as heart, smart, and holistic. what are some simple, other than what you just mentioned, which I think is great, what are some simple daily habits that can make like a meaningful difference in heart health for busy women? Just, I told you I love the thing that you have in the magazine, which I'll talk more about. But if you're watching this, look in the not right now because it's not on Facebook Live yet, but look in the text of the video, whether here on Facebook Live or on our YouTube channel, for a link to Suzie's article in this month's issue of On Purpose Woman magazine, because you have this great 5-minute circuit workout that anybody, pretty much anybody can do, but you can do it in your house with no
Hmm.
equipment.
Right.
No,
Right.
you know,
I,
and so that would be a place to start, maybe talk a little bit about that and I want to just go back a minute because when you were talking about your client, something kind of rang true for me too, because I can get into this mindset that if I'm not doing a whole bunch, then I shouldn't, why bother doing anything? You know, I used to, when I used a Fitbit years ago, well, 5 years before COVID, I would always try to get those 10,000 steps we're supposed to get in, and I rarely did. And I would feel bad about rarely getting them in. And so when I started using one again about 3 months ago, I just thought, I'm going for 5,000 steps because I would rather plan for 5,000, get that, and even go over than to always feel bad. But it's
mhm.
also this overachieving kind of thing. If I can't really, walk for 30 minutes, what's the point of walking for 10 minutes? It's a lot of points for walking for 10 minutes. So I know I've asked you a
There-
whole bunch of questions probably in that one that one bunch of statements, but can you just address that a little bit and just talk about some things that could make a meaningful difference that, I know you're all about no crazy diets and no crazy exercise routines, right?
mhm. Yes.
I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly
Yeah.
how you say
Yeah.
it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is. I firmly believe that you should not follow like a super restrictive diet. That diets should be simple. And if we think
Mhm.
about what we need to be, what we need to do to be heart healthy and brain healthy and just body healthy, it's really simple. The steps are super simple, but not always easy, right? So implementation is the key. So a lot of times when it comes to the exercise, like that 5-minute routine, so that 5-minute circuit, you could do those exercises one time and still feel good that you did something versus nothing, because something is always better than nothing. It used to be that, and this is probably to your point, like you'd hear that if you don't do 30 to 60 minutes of dedicated exercise, you're not getting the benefit. And research shows that that totally is not true, that something is better than nothing, and that you don't have to, especially as we get older, you're not supposed to go out there and wear yourself out completely because that causes more stress in the body. So it's good to have stress at certain points, but not with every workout, not with every movement routine. And so, yes, doing something versus nothing is always good. A 10-minute walk, doing 5 or 6 exercises, doing one exercise and doing 3 bouts of it, to
Mhm.
fatigue that muscle area, is going to get you results in that moment. Now, do you need some dedicated exercise time that maybe is more structured? Sure. I'm not ever going to say that you get off you get off the hook of just doing 10-minute exercise routine.
Darn.
Um, but if you do, can you hear my dog by any chance?
No, I can't.
Okay. Okay. She's being very loud right now, so I
Zoom is
apologize for
great
my
at not picking up,
distraction.
Zoom is great at not picking up outside noises.
Yeah.
I've
Um, so the exercises, so you can do the 10-minute bouts, but maybe you do 3 10-minute bouts to get
hmm
the full effect. So it doesn't all
Yeah.
have to be done at once. But if you know I've got 10 minutes in the morning, I got 10 minutes around lunchtime, and I got another 10 minutes in the evening, you've hit your 30-minute goal.
Okay.
So, and still, I jump back to something is better than nothing. So if your day is totally crazy, do the 10 minutes and call it a win, and if that's what you've got for the day, that's what you've got for the day. You try and work that 30 minutes in on another day. So that said, and strength training is absolutely important. I know a lot of women get nervous about strength training. One, maybe from intimidation of what they've seen in the gym or on TV or in videos or something in the past. But strength training is what keeps us aging well. So it's really important to keep our muscles strong. We lose muscle pretty quickly as we get older if we're not using them. So it is important to do strength training, and it helps to ward off getting type 2 diabetes because the glucose regulation is better with the
Okay.
more lean that we have. When it comes to foods, if you keep it really simple, so real, fresh, whole foods. So that doesn't look like it came out of a package
Yeah.
for the most part. Um, and I'm not somebody who's ever going to tell people that they have to be a vegetarian or they have to be vegan or they have to follow keto or paleo or whatever it may be. But I am going to tell you that more plants, more whole grains, lean protein, and then you leave another 10 or 20% for that fun stuff that you really enjoy. Because the second I tell somebody that they can't have something, guess what's going to be on the brain nonstop? And it's going to be on the brain at 1 a.m. in the morning, and you're going to go seeking it out. And that is definitely not the time of day to have something like that.
Yeah,
So
good
I'd
graze the kitchen,
rather,
right?
yeah, yeah. So I'd rather somebody like I like chocolate, right? Chocolate is my thing. And there's something that I work with my clients on called the 3 bite rule. Have 3 bites, and if that satisfies you, a lot of times it is only 3 bites that you need, and it will satisfy you. Or one piece of chocolate, or like simple
Hmm.
things like that. But so when it comes to food, and I get we're busy, we're on the go, and everybody's always like, I don't have time to cook, I don't have time to meal prep. It really doesn't take that long if you cook up like quinoa or rice or a whole grain, right? And then you cook up some protein to last maybe 3 days. You can play around with those two things, roast some vegetables, or stir fry some vegetables, or make a soup like soups, stir fries, smoothies. Those are all bowls. Like I love to do a bowl and mix it up. Like one night it might be a Mediterranean bowl, and the next night it might be more of an Italian kind of flavored bowl. Those kind of things that keep it a little bit easier and manageable.
And
Um,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and then throw some in the freezer. So with soups and stuff, throwing it in the
Hmm.
freezer so that it's easy to grab. So when like you thought you were going to have a night that you were going to be able to cook and then you couldn't, and you get
Yeah.
home and you're like, oh my God, I'm ravenous. And you eat more food while you're prepping your meal. And so then you've eaten a meal while prepping, and then you sit down to eat your meal because you cooked it. Now you want it. So anyway,
I've been
yeah,
looking at
those
you
are
in the screen here, and all of a sudden I'm dark, and this lighting is not working. But anyway, you look so bright and sunny there. Is it this issue that you have the quinoa bowl recipe? I know I
I
saw a
think it might
quinoa bowl. I
be.
think it
I
is. It
think it
looks
might, yeah,
really good. I'm looking
yeah,
forward to
yeah,
mixing that up because so
yeah.
check that out, y'all. And we'll have that link in the text of the video. So, Susie, for a woman who's listening who may be feeling worried about her health but she doesn't know what she's worried about yet, or she's, recovering from something,
Mhm.
what would you most want her to know? You've given some great great advice already, great tips, but what do you most want her to know? And it could be something that you've already said that you want to really drive
Yeah.
home.
So I think the most important thing is that um, you you don't try and do it all, right? So if you've been off track or because of a new health issue, things have gotten sidelined a little bit, or maybe it's work, personal life, whatever it is that you've gotten off track with, right? Don't go, oh, I'm going to start exercising 5 days a week. I'm gonna, I'm gonna,
Like on New
you
Year's
know,
Day that we do
right,
sometimes, right?
right. Start exercising. I'm gonna never eat chocolate again, and I'm never eating fried food, and I'm only eating salads and soups and
Meditate an hour a day.
yeah, meditate an
Yeah,
hour
just
a day.
be the
Yeah,
nicest person on the planet.
right,
Yeah, we're going to change everything.
right, right. Just pick one thing. And so when it comes to food, like a lot of times the things that I will focus on first is let's start looking at the food label of the packaged foods that you're having. Let's
Hmm.
look at the food label. Let's look at the added sugar and let's try and get things out of the pantry that have a lot of added sugar. Let's try and get things out of the pantry that have a lot of added salt. Those are two areas that I will focus on first. Let's not jump in like my client this morning. I was like, look, try and get that 10-minute walk in.
Hmm.
That's your first prescription going forward this week. And let's make sure that we've got some meals prepped for the week. So that was her. But I only start with you have to know, like, you have to know your audience, right? I get to know my clients really personally right away because I have to know what's going to work for them and what's
Yeah.
not. And I have to know, do we focus on exercise first? Do we start with the food stuff first? Do we start with the head? Know, getting things all wrapped around of what's possible. Um, and there is so much that's possible. There, like I work with women who were an athlete in college, right? And then life took over. Work life,
Hmm.
home life, all that. And they're like, I'm so frustrated. I used to be an athlete. I know you don't believe me, but I used to
Oh,
be an athlete. And I'm like, I believe you. And here's the good news. Your body believes in you too. And it will
body remembers
remember.
those muscles, doesn't it?
Mhm,
It remembers.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you start, it will start to snowball. It will in a good way, snowball in a
Hmm.
good way. It will build on top of each other. So one small thing at a time. Um, and know that yes, it's simple, but it's going to take some work on your part. And if you're
Hmm.
committed to the consistency of it, not the intensity of it, you're going to get those results.
Bingo. I think that's the best thing you've said all night. You said a lot of great stuff tonight. Say that again, because I think that bears repeating.
Yeah, the consistency, the commitment to the consistency is so much better than the intensity. So, yeah. So, consistency, consistency, consistency is where the results are found.
I love that. I want to go back to the salt thing for a minute because
Hmm.
I've never been that concerned about salt because my blood pressure's fine. I don't add salt to things. So I thought I'm not
Hmm.
getting a lot of salt because I don't add salt. I don't put a salt shaker
Hmm.
and put on things. And last year I started getting like puffy ankles and like some swelling. And I decided on my own, I didn't ask anybody, I just decided to start to look at the labels. And one of my favorite lentil soups, oh my gosh, it was like half your allotted salt for like 2 cups
Hmm.
for the day.
Hmm.
It's hidden. I mean,
It's
I
hidden.
had no idea. And I've been on the planet a few decades and I just didn't know that that much was in there. It's canned soup,
Hmm.
but it's not necessary to add that much to have it taste good. But they've, like with sugar, I think they've tricked us into wanting it, right?
Hmm.
And I know with
Sure.
sugar, if I don't eat like added sugar,
Hmm.
I'm not, I still do, I would do fruit and stuff, but if I don't eat anything that's got added sugar to it within a week, I like don't even want it because it feels like if I eat it, I'm going to like go crazy with it again. And
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
orange tastes so good at that point. Like, ooh, the mango
Right.
is even more delicious. But I'm just throwing that out there because, if we're not paying attention to those labels, and
Yeah,
then we're
it's
wondering, why aren't I getting any results here? Oh, it's
hmm
because, we think because something canned soup is not the best soup, but it's soup,
Yeah,
right? It's
it's
better than
soup
eating, it's
and a
better
lot
than
of
eating.
times even the healthy soups, like they sell the health value of it
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
front of the label. I always tell everybody the front of the label can even fool me. And boy, do I get frustrated
Yeah,
when
I bet you
I
do.
get suckered by the front of the label and then get it home and go, oh, well, let me just, oh my gosh, what did I just buy?
Yeah.
What did I just buy? So here's the cool thing is like that's your favorite soup. You can add a little bit more veggies to it and help to balance out that sodium. So some frozen or fresh veggies added to
Hmm.
that. You still preserve the flavor, but you're watering down that sodium content. Um, so that's always a balancing, a way to balance it out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great
Um,
idea. Then you're not eating as much of it either. Because you're eating,
right.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Because it already has
yeah.
great vegetables in it, so adding more
Hmm.
is not gonna, it's just gonna enhance it. It's not gonna change anything,
Hmm.
that I won't
Hmm.
like. I know when Don was recovering from his car accident, he was retaining a lot of fluid, and he has a friend he's vegan. He's what do you call them? Dietitian.
Nutrition, dietitian.
And
Hmm.
Don was concerned, and I was concerned about some of the things that he was eating that already had a
Hmm.
lot of salt. And he suggested, okay, for that lentil soup, just buy a can of lentils that have nothing added to them and
Hmm.
add those too, which
Hmm.
worked well. But I think like the idea of adding more vegetables, I think even
Hmm.
better. So, oh gosh, you are so great, Susie. I love your approach. I love your knowledge. I love how you don't do cookie cutter with anybody
Yeah,
because cookie
no,
cutter doesn't work. That's why diets don't work because
hmm
one diet for the whole planet, one fad diet it's not sustainable. For some
it's not
people it will work,
sustainable.
but
And if there was one size fits all, I wouldn't be in business.
right, right. We'd
No.
all be our
And I
perfect
say that,
selves. We'd
yeah,
be our
yeah.
perfect bodies. Yes.
Right, right. And I say that a little tongue in cheek, right? But the truth of it is, we're not built the same. I mean, we can easily see men to women, we're not built the same. Older to younger, we're not the same. But even identical, 5'7", 140-pound woman is not the same. What works for one may not work for the other. And it
Yeah.
often doesn't. They're just different tweaks that you have to honor that come along with it. There's, eating healthy, moving more. Yes, those things are absolutes that are going to improve your health. Taking time to meditate, to do some breath work absolutely helps. Um, and then when you want to see bigger changes, bolder changes, then you have to start to dig a little bit deeper. But it's all possible.
Time to
It's
get
all
some help.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all possible.
Hear that, ladies? It's all possible because Susie said so. Susie, thank you so much for joining us and for the compassionate and empowering work that you do to help women rebuild their strength, confidence, or actually have it for the first time. For
Hmm.
some women, I know, I've never been an athlete, but I know when I did start working out a number of years, many years ago, how much better I felt about myself, kind of like Wonder Woman stuff.
Hmm.
And it didn't have anything to do with somebody looking at me and going, "Oh, you look, hot." It was all about, "Oh, I can do this," and feeling like we're
Hmm.
in charge of something. I think I
Yeah.
need to feel that way again. So,
Yeah. Well, and it's also like I tell people. or the women I work with, and even some of the men in my world, it's an inside out transformation. So
Mm.
you're going to feel better inside first before you see the weight start to drop, before you see the
Yeah.
blood pressure numbers start to drop. You're going to feel more energized. You're going to have less brain fog. You're going to just feel better, have less bloaty feeling. Look in the mirror and see like a clearer, just version of you. So
Hmm.
that's where it starts. And then everything else comes. But we do, and I'll say this one more time, we have to show ourselves grace and be
Mm.
patient because we're not 20 or 30 years old anymore. And nor do we want to treat this body as that.
Yeah.
So be patient. The results will come.
I remember when I was in high school, we danced at lunchtime in my high school, the high school. We had a jukebox, and it cost a
Hmm.
penny to get into the gym. It was a small school.
Hmm.
And then they used those pennies. You could buy, for 80 pennies, you could buy another record for the jukebox. And we danced at lunchtime. And so when you dance at lunchtime, if you're cool, you don't eat lunch. You're not going to go, you're going to dance. And so my lunch would be one of those little paper cups of Coke from a machine and a 5-cent bag of Wise potato chips with those oily ones. That would be my lunch. And my weight was great, but if I wanted to lose 5 pounds, I could just put down the bag of chips for a couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Those that's
Probably
because
a
it's
couple days.
probably a couple of days. Yeah, it's like, and that's a rude awakening when you get to be even in your 20s or 30s, because I wasn't
Hmm.
dancing at lunchtime anymore. You know,
We
I was,
should all have a dance
I
party at
wasn't,
lunchtime.
I know, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I think it did so much. We didn't realize how unique that was, that there weren't a
Hmm.
lot of schools that were doing things like that. But it was friendly, it was fun. You didn't have to have a dance partner. It got us
Right.
moving. People were ready to go back to class with a clearer head. It was great fun. But I just remember my lunch, my healthy lunch of a Coke and potato chips. For probably 4 years I ate that way. So, but nobody was telling me not to at that point. I know my mother thought I was eating better than that, but I don't want to belabor that point. But I do want to thank you again. And for those of you who feel inspired by what Suzie said today, please check out her website. Want to give us your website? It'll also be in the
Sure.
text of this video.
Sure. So you want me verbally give it and
Yeah,
drop it
just give it
in?
verbally.
Okay. Yep. It's livingfitnessrx, all one word.com. Yep. And then I'll give you
So,
the
and all your
links.
information is there, all your programs, how to get in touch with you, and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Okay.
Correct.
And be sure you check out the March, April issue of On Purpose Woman magazine because Susie has a great article. She has her that 5 minute circuit workout we talked about and an amazing recipe for a quinoa bowl that also has more information about her and links to her website as well. So, our conversation today reminds us that even when our bodies change the conversation, these moments can become powerful invitations to listen more deeply, care for ourselves more compassionately, and create healthier, more vibrant lives. So, thank you to everyone watching this, either on Facebook Live or on our YouTube channel for the replay. And until next time, keep sharing your gifts, living your purpose, and remembering the power of coming together to create something greater than we could ever create by ourselves. Learn more about the On Purpose Women Global Community and magazine at opwgc.com, and that link is also in the text of this video. Thanks for watching. So I have to say this even though we're still